a little cheeky little trip out to NY back in November, man. How was that experience?
Yeah, no, that was sick. You know, I went out to watch the Cambosis artier female fight at Madison Square Gardens, which was a good experience. I haven't been there before, so that was a good experience. Obviously, on my time off, I like to still stay around boxing, etc. So I was obviously in the gyms around there. Went to the show at the end of the week when that one finished. A few days later, flew out to Vegas. Was in the gyms in Vegas, learned a lot in Vegas, doing some sparring and that out there. End of the week, went to the Devin Haney fight. That was good. And then the next day, rather than coming back to London, we headed over to LA to go and watch the Gervonta Davis thing in LA. Done a bit of work over at Freddie Roach's and some sparring over there in LA, and then come back to London. So it was a good trip. It was meant to be a holiday, but you know, boxing's life. No boxing, no life.
That's it, man. You're always doing these cheeky ones, man. I swear you did that same thing last year. You just don't tell anyone, you just go. And then all of a sudden, all over social media, like you're in like some next place, like living it.
You know, it is. I think about this stuff. I think about it, and I don't like making. I don't book anything in advance, and that's how I feel it gets close to the lastminute.com. Obviously, usually I used to do like before and that, but with all this COVID stuff where you got to take your tests and that, I have to do it about 3 days in advance, do it, and then just hit the ground running and go.
That's it, man. That's the way, man. That is the way. But let's look back on your 2021. I assume you've obviously watched your fights back and stuff. How would you assess your 2021?
It was a learning curve. I looked at the step up straight. It was where they wanted that fight. You know, I like to get in with everyone, anyone. The biggest challenges is the ones I'm looking forward to. So I took that fight, and maybe I was scoring it a little bit wrong in the corners. You know, obviously at ringside, a lot of people were saying that in the balance going on to the later rounds. It was just told me at round 9 that it was close, and that's why 10, 11, and 12 I pressed on it. Obviously, maybe misjudging a few of the rounds early. If I obviously judged them better, obviously I would have got the result, because you saw finishing off in the 12th round, I was ready to do another 4 rounds, and I didn't leave everything in there because obviously I just thought I was winning the fight. But you can't go in there with that mentality, and I feel like usually I'm in a lot of domestic grudge matches. So when I'm in them domestic grudge matches, there's a bit of spite in there. I just want to get them out of there. So I'm just going for the KO. But it was a little bit of a different experience spending the week with Bivol. You know, you're seeing him breakfast, lunch, and dinner, high and buying. You know, day before my birthdays, come and give me birthday cake. And maybe all of that subconsciously played a part in the fight. You could see at the end of every round when I watched it back, we're spudding each other like, yeah, good round. And, you know, there's no friends in there. And it was like when I watched Terence Crawford versus Sean Porter. He said, look, Sean said, I regard you as a friend. Terence said, listen, there's no friends until after the fight. And this is a mentality that I kind of adopted. I should have adopted with Bivol. I believe also everything for a reason. You know, maybe I would have got the win that night and stayed complacent and come across the next hungry guy and been complacent and maybe come up short. Obviously, I won't get complacent, I'm always learning, but you know, that extra drive and passion, because that's what I'm like when I'm come up short or I don't perform. I go to the gym and I really kick myself and go back and work hard. And so I came to the Mateus fight later on in the year, October. After I came off, obviously, the injury, came back into the gym, started working, and had Mateus. We knew he was tough. You know, he's been in with guys 15-0, 12 KOs and got draws, which he should have got wins in, you know, and he lost them by 2 split decisions out of 24 fights, never been hurt, never been dropped, never been stopped. We knew he was meant to fight the week before me. Before that fight, he was meant to fight for a world eliminator. He'd pulled out of that fight to fight me, so I knew that his ambitions was. And I went in there and I delivered what I needed to deliver. I boxed up to the game plan. And when the opportunity came, I got him out of there. And if you notice, the day before, I think it was the weigh-in, because the press conference, he shook my hand. He caught me off guard. I shook his hand. And I walked off, and it reminded me of the Bivol situation. And I thought, nah, this guy's trying to be my friend again. So that's why at the weigh-in, when he tried to shake my hand, I said, nah, there's no friends. And I had to draw the line right there so I could keep that little bit of needle. So when I got in there and the time come, I made sure I got him out of there to separate, like, this is business. And I think that's what 2021 learned. It's like playtime over. Games are done. All of this trying to be too nice stuff, that's all done. Just got to be myself, go in there and remember what I'm here for. And I think that's what 2021 has taught me.
In terms of that looking back at that Bivol fight, obviously he's recently been struggling to get opponents. If the opportunity rose to run it back with him, is that something you'd explore?
1,000,000%. I've been begging for the fight back ever since since that final bell. I said it to him in the ring afterwards once the announcement was made. I said it to him at the back, but he did say, well, after the fight, like, to Eddie, where the fuck did you get this guy from? Sorry for my language. He said, this guy's game. He said his IQ's on point. You can hear it. He understood, and it's kind of like, now, why would he want to run that back? He said I was a very hard day in the office. So, even I heard he was looking for a homecoming in Russia, and I said I'll jump in. Like, I'll go Russia. Like, if he can't get an opponent, I'm happy to jump in. You know, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I've achieved most of the things in boxing so far, though I've had a hard route. And this is why boxing to me is a joke sometimes. Like, the agendas get pushed. People don't get their fair shake. And I come through from 6, 7 fights in, beating, as I always say, beating guys who have bigger amateur pedigrees than me, 12-0, sort of opponents for Southern Area titles. I've achieved the Southern Area titles the hard way. I've achieved the British the hard way, the WBA Continental the hard way, and the International. If you look at my 3 other title fights before the last one, I was the underdog in all the bookies. So I've gone out and I've done that, executed the job. All of my title fights at light heavyweight, I've got the knockout in all of them also. So for me, I've achieved all of that, anything to domestic level, to the international belts, continental belts. So there's only left for me to really go to the top of the sport, that world level, winning them world titles, maybe exploring international names and building my CV and my resume that way as well. Because I feel like, as you look at the landscape of my division, there isn't anyone you can name who's boxed more domestic top names than I have in Britain, in the UK. But yet again, I don't know why, but people don't really take that into account. But if someone said to me the other day, actually someone in America actually said to me, what did you think of your commentary? It's like they was pushing a negative agenda against you, naming anything negative, fights that you've had which didn't perform your best, or like also like just loads of things. Like, if I got caught with a shot, oh, he's been caught here, but when I'm laying a combination off, they're not talking about it. Things like that. It was like, and these are the sort of things I understand now why the public don't jump onto my wins, because they're getting things like that, commentary talking negative, people not pushing, people not saying my name in the public. And, you know, obviously a lot of fans are casuals, so they're not really looking into your CV, looking who you've boxed. So when it comes down to, oh, who do you think is the best here, or who do you think is the best there, they're just going by the casual perspective. And I think, like, I've taken all of this into account now, and I think, like, 2022, it's like I just got to switch it all up, and I've got to kind of do what I need to do to get to where I need to get to. And that's what I feel like now. It's all about pushing for the world titles. I've done a lot of my fights have been crowd pleasing. They want him, let me just fight him. But now I've got to do things what's moving my career forward. Go for the world titles, win the big titles, you know, get big fights. I want the big fights. Everyone knows I'm not shy of fights. So I'm just bored of domestic clashes a bit. That's the only reason why sometimes people are like, what do you think of domestic clashes? I'm like, look, for me now, domestically's got any, unless there's a lot of money on the line, like, then this is why I have the attitude I have, that I just want all the best world champions and people abroad.
In terms of, I know obviously last year and a year before, people obviously linking you to having clashes with Joshua Buatsi, Anthony Yard. Obviously, I know Lyndon Arthur's just taken a defeat, and Callum Johnson, who's now challenging for a world title next week. We'll move on to that in a minute. But you say you're kind of done with the domestic challenges. Do you think that a win over that type of fighter who is being pushed as like the A side would give you the credibility you desire, if that makes sense?
I'll tell you exactly what would happen. All right, you're gonna just, let's say, like, let's just name, like, who would you say? Who would you, like, just name one?
Any of those fights would be great fights, man. Any
of them fights. Yeah. So, for example, when I was coming through, I come up short the Puglioni fight. I started making my way back in the light heavyweight. I was knocking back-to-back knockouts. At the time when I turned pro, there was a crop of us. You know, there was the Reece Belottis, there was Jake Bull, there was Isaac Chamberlain. There were, you know, that was kind of the crop. But if you look at the crop of the Matchroom fighters when I came through, at that era, the Reece Belottis, the Jake Bulls, these are the guys who was the poster boys. You know, when I boxed Jake top 5, he was like Eddie's kind of golden guy at Matchroom at light heavyweight. So when I moved up, he had called me out straight away. Took a picture of Eddie ringside, called me out. Yeah, me and Eddie said, what you said, let's make this fight. And at the time, he had a big buzz because he had a high knockout percentage. And he was a former GB Olympic boy. So he's a former GB boy, had a high buzz, et cetera, et cetera. And I went in there and I dropped him every single round. I knocked him out and stopped him by the third round. Now, where did my name go from there? Nowhere.
I see
but yet, now, let's fast forward. At the time, the week before I boxed Callum, he fought something. Who's the best in Britain? I think it was Yard, Shakan Pitters, Joshua Buatsi, I think Lyndon Arthur.
Yeah,
they was comparing to who's the best. Yeah. So a week later, I boxed Shakan Pitters. Keep in mind, this is 14-0. When I went in there and boxed him, dropped him, dominated the fight, and KO'd him within 9 rounds on his own show in his own area. What did people say after that? He's rubbish. So, like, at the time, he was classed as one of the top. Now, exempt me, and you look at him now, he'd be what, like 17-0, won the Ultimate Boxer, won the English, won the British, won the international title. People ain't giving him the credit, because I KO'd him. So now, if I'm so much levels above like this, why I don't get the credit, why do I still have to prove myself then? Because I'm good for beating these top guys, but because I'm expected to now, but yet I ain't getting the credit to say I'm that guy. So it doesn't make sense to me. Like, when I'm KOing the guys you lot are buzzing about, I don't get credit. It's like, all right, you KO'd him. Who's next then? All right, if I KO'd, for example, say like, for example, me and Josh boxed, everyone say, and I'll be like, oh, yeah, who's now better out of him and Callum Smith? That's what would be the next one. You know what I'm saying? Or who's now better out of him and who's better out of him and there's always someone else they're going to say. I don't think you're going to get the credit until you clean up the whole division.
Yeah, fair. I see where you're coming from. And that's probably why you're just trying to, I assume, just stepping into your shoes for a second, is trying to get those world titles in.
Because I spent a lot of my career, I feel like I've spent a lot of my career chasing the approval. Like when Higgins was buzzing, he just come off a big win against Chalarinda, who was obviously had a buzz at the time, and he was 12-0, 6 KOs. The next guy coming through, highly ranked. I stepped up. I was only 7 fights in, 1 6 rounder I ever done. Stepped up, got that win. Do you know what I'm saying? Same thing. Then obviously Ball was buzzing at the time, got the win. Then Sterling just beat Ricky Summers, just beat the English champion, 10-0, was unbeaten, coming through, called me out, stepped up because everyone said, he's the next guy coming through, beat him. Shakan Pitters, next one coming through, stepped up, beat him. And yet, I'm not getting the credit. So now I feel like, why don't we wait for all the guys you lot buzz about to be at the top? And when we fight for world titles, then it doesn't matter if I don't get the credit. At least I get something out of it. I know I'm going to get a title out of it. And yet, we don't have to know if they're going to be enough or not. Let's wait till they are the guys you think they are. Let's wait till these guys are at the top and I'm at the top, and then we can make it happen. So it's not that I don't want to have a domestic clash again. I'm more than happy to. I just want to make sure the guys that I'm going to be clashing with are the guys at the top who did make it through the next stage.
I feel you. I see where you're coming from. So let's kind of move on to 2022. And the first thing I want to kind of talk about is obviously the British Boxing Board of Control has said that there will be no boxing in January. All pro boxing is to be put on hold. What's your thoughts on that? And do you think it will be extended?
No, I think like now, because there's a lot of big shows and they've just approved. I saw today they approved the Kelbrook Khan fight. I'm not sure if they said it's 19th or something, but they've approved that. 19th, they've approved that, and I feel like obviously it's training camps. If people got into camps, I think they kind of gave you last month. They kind of gave you prior warning. There might be no boxing now in January, so they kind of gave you the heads up. So I think if they're not going to let you fight in a few weeks in February, I think they would have probably gave you the heads up to say it's not going to happen unless there's actually a UK lockdown. I think that it will go ahead in February now.
Fair. And let's talk about the fight that's happening next week. Obviously, Callum Johnson is someone else who's it would be a domestic / world level challenge, but he goes up against Joe Smith Jr. Break that fight down for me, man. How do you think that goes?
It's gonna be a hell of a fight. You know, Callum Johnson can punch. What's his name? Joe Smith Jr. can punch. They both don't really go technically boxers. They're not going to box. They're not going to bob and weave. They're not going to move. They're both going to come forward and try and get the other one out of there. So I think one thing we're probably guaranteed is a knockout.
There's a knockout.
Yeah, and they both can punch, you know. It just depends on whose chin holds up better, I think. I know Joe Smith Jr. is quite of a tough guy. I saw him take a lot of shots from Bivol, and he survived the fight. Um, like even when he looked like he was out on his feet, his chin held up. So yeah, he's a solid competitor. And I'm interested in the fight. I'm interested in just watching it from a fan's point of just interested in someone's going to get knocked out,
Yeah.
and it'll be nice for like the Brit to bring it back to the UK or whatever. Yeah, it'll be a good fight. I'm looking forward to it.
Would you like the winner of that fight?
Yeah, of course. I want more titles, so of
Yeah.
course, if I can get myself into that shot, I would definitely. If I, there'll be no question asked. You don't even have to show me the contract. Just tell me the date.
And obviously, like looking forward now to 2022, have there been any discussions with Matchroom and Peter about what direction kind of you'll be headed in the fighters that you'll be kind of looking at? Do you know when you'll be out next?
We've looked at a few fighters. We've looked at the landscape. There is a few possibilities of different kind of opponents on different avenues. As we say, there's fan friendly fights. There's progressive fights, and we've kind of sat down and gone through them all to see which options are best, and then we'll see what's feasible for me, and we'll go with that. You know, we'll sit down and see what can happen. As I always say, I'm open to everything. Although I say I'm not open to, I don't want this and I don't want that. I'm always open to everything. It depends on what the best outcome on the availability for me. I want to be active and I want to keep moving forward in my career. Obviously, ideally, I want to be winning titles and fighting the bigger names and the guys people were saying are good.
Are they kind of giving you any date?
We're looking around March, April. We was heading for March before. No, we're looking about March, Aprilish. So kind of depends if we can nail someone down, how quick we can. But that's definitely the dates I'm looking to get out, March/April.
Touch. Okay, so we've obviously spoken about two champions there at light heavyweight. Let's not leave out the last one in beterbiev. First of all, did you watch his performance against Marcus Brown? And what do you think of him as a fighter?
I did watch his performances. As you can see, every performance he is slowing down a little bit, but and his reactions are not as quick, etc. But the one thing that leaves you last is your power, and that's like what carried him through very well. So as you see, it prevailed for him in the end. You know, I felt like Marcus Brown got hit with a few shots, and he thought twice about where he wants to be. He started questioning if his coach put him in the right fight once he got hit a few times. But it was a good fight. I enjoyed watching it. I know with him, you're going to get a knockout, 70 KOs. He ain't a joke. He can fight. Marcus Brown done well for a few rounds, but I'm not sure if the nervous energy or whatnot seemed to suck his energy, or maybe the body shots. Who knows? But it was a good fight. Marcus put up a good performance to start with, but beterbiev got to him eventually when he started upping the gears.
And the kind of last couple of things I want to touch on is obviously it's Eddie's kind of pushing that the route that Canelo should follow, which is doing whatever he was going to do at cruiserweight, or potentially moving up to light heavyweight and fighting Bivol and fighting Joe Smith Jr. or Callum Johnson, and then fighting beterbiev to kind of unify the division. He's also spoken about a potential fight in the UK. If that was put to you, how quickly would you take that fight?
Wow. I probably put myself in a 12 rematch clause contract. How quick I'll be signing, I wouldn't even read through. But nah, 100%, you know me, I'm game. I want to fight with the best. He's obviously the guy right now, pound for pound. I'd like to test myself up against that. I know I'm improving all the time in the gym, and I believe in myself. I believe I've got the abilities. I could beat anyone, but it's just about up here for me. And I think like this is something now I've mastered in terms of boxing at world level. There's always questioning. When I came to the game, I weren't boxing that long as an amateur. I was boxing, and I came to the game and I've been stepping up very fast. Sometimes you wonder, what level do you hit where at world level the punch is harder? Can you take them? Can you hurt them? How is it? Although you believe in your skills, you don't know till you've been there. Now I've been in with a super world champion. I realized I can hurt him. He couldn't hurt me. I was fitter than him. It was all just about me, my game plan of stepping through the gears. And now I know I'm ready at world level. And then since that fight, even being ready at that level, I've improved dramatically. So now I just want to get back in and really get my feet wet with opponents like these guys, the elite guys.
And in terms of, so if you could plan out your perfect 2022 fight wise, what would it be? How many times you're gonna fight? Who are you gonna fight? Where are you gonna fight?
Dimitry Bivol, April. Joe Smith Jr. or the other winner, September. And the end of the year, beterbiev. Maybe we've got to get a unification with Canelo. I just want the belts. I want the world titles, and I want to prove I'm the best. That's what I want to do. So any route I can do that, world titles, that's all I'm after, really. Of course, there's a process that I might have to go through to get there, but that's what I'm aiming to do.
And kind of like a fan friendly kind of question I want to ask you that we want to kind of finish up on. If you had the power to make any fight not involving yourself out there, what would it be?
Errol Spence, Terence Crawford.
Oh, that's good, man. Loads of people have said that to me, man. Do you think we're ever going to get that?
Do you know why everyone said that to you? Because that's the fight what needs to happen.
Yeah. Are we ever going to get it, though? And how's that go down?
I kind of questioned it a little bit. Obviously, I was always an Errol guy before, and obviously I liked Crawford. I liked both of them, but I feel like now Crawford's really pushing the agenda. Errol's not really pushing the agenda anymore. Of course, after the UCAS fight, I think he's got no choice, but I don't know if they're going to try to split Crawford to a ridiculous split to make him obviously not accept the fight. I'm just hoping that's what don't happen, but we'll see after the UGAS fight. And I think him coming back off the injury, it's the perfect fight back for him. UGAS ain't a joke. He's a good operator. So if he can beat UGAS, then he's ready to get into the Terence Crawford fight straight off the back of that.
Finally, do you have a message for your fans and your supporters that have been watching you through 2021 and that are going to watch you in 2022?
I do. I'd really appreciate all the fans that really support me. I really appreciate it. All the people who root for me, back me online, come out to the shows and cheer me on. And they got belief that I'm going to become world champion. And I thank all my sponsors. So I have to shout out my sponsors: Everlast, Sports Direct, Lewis Access, Meat Art, the Mill Team, Elite Fleet. All these guys have been backing me. They've been making it happen from the off. Like, a lot of my sponsors have been long-term as well. They're not just been guys who come yesterday. And long-term, and obviously my team, obviously Peter and everyone, the boys at the gym, Tony, we've got Dan Lawrence, strength coach, my physio, Chirag, all these guys, they've really been a part of the journey, a part of the team. And that's what we're doing day in and day out. And they've been on the journey and believing in me. So I just got to thank everyone who's been around me in the sport as well.
Well,
and thank you guys for giving me the time.
No, of course, man. Anytime. I'll be listening. On social media, I've been trying to get to you for like a couple of months now, man. But finally, we get to sit down and you know what?
I've had a little of interviews, but I'm back.
It's hard when you're jet setting, man, to pin you down. You know what I mean? You know what, Craig Richards?
Like you.
Thank you so much for taking time out to speak to us here at Behind the Gloves, and we'll definitely catch up with you when your next fight is announced. Cheers, pal. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, man. Appreciate your time.
Hey fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you do so by clicking this icon right here, or else